He was born into debt, shaped by humiliation, and haunted by poverty for the rest of his life. As a child, he watched his father disappear behind prison walls, not for violence or crime, but for owing money. Years later, he would turn that trauma into stories that millions still recognize themselves in. Stories of orphans and misers, broken systems and second chances. Stories that didn't just entertain, but exposed society to itself. This is the life of a man who transformed personal suffering into some of the most enduring literature ever written. Charles Dickens was born on February 7, 1812, in Portsmouth, England, during a time of immense social change. Britain was deep in the Industrial Revolution, a period that created great wealth for some and brutal hardship for many others. Dickens's father, John Dickens, worked as a clerk in the Navy Pay Office, a respectable position that nonetheless failed to keep the family financially secure. The Dickens household lived beyond its means, accumulating debt year after year. That instability would define Charles Dickens' worldview long before he found his voice as a writer. The defining moment of his childhood came when he was just 12 years old. His father was imprisoned in the Marshalsea debtors' prison, and young Charles was forced to leave school and work at a blacking factory, pasting labels on bottles of shoe polish. He lived alone in cheap lodgings and worked long hours among other neglected children. The experience humiliated him. He later described it as a period of deep shame and abandonment, one that never truly left him. Even after fame and fortune, Dickens carried that memory like an open wound. Eventually, his father was released and Dickens returned to school. But something had changed. He had seen the underside of society firsthand, and he never forgot it. As a young man, Dickens trained as a shorthand writer and became a court reporter, attending trials and observing the legal system at close range. This exposure sharpened his eye for injustice, bureaucracy, and human absurdity. He saw how laws often failed the very people they claimed to protect. Dickens's writing career began modestly. He published short sketches under the pseudonym Boz, humorous observations of everyday London life. These pieces gained popularity, and in 1836 he was commissioned to write a series of texts to accompany illustrations in a publication that would become the Pickwick Papers. What began as a side project exploded into a phenomenon. Dickens was suddenly famous. Readers eagerly awaited each new installment, lining up for the next chapter. Serialization turned literature into an event, and Dickens became its master. From that moment on, his rise was rapid. Oliver Twist followed, drawing directly from his own childhood experiences. The novel exposed the cruelty of workhouses, child labor, and institutional indifference. It shocked Victorian readers by forcing them to confront realities they preferred to ignore. Dickens didn't write about poverty from a distance. He wrote as someone who had lived it. That authenticity gave his stories moral force. Over the next 2 decades, Dickens produced a remarkable body of work. Nicholas Nickleby, David Copperfield, Bleak House, Great Expectations, and A Tale of Two Cities are just a few of the novels that cemented his reputation. His characters, Ebenezer Scrooge, Miss Havisham, Uriah Heep, Fagin, were exaggerated, memorable, and instantly recognizable. Dickens had a gift for creating figures that felt larger than life, yet deeply human. But Dickens was more than a storyteller. He was a social critic. His novels attacked debtors' prisons, child labor, industrial exploitation, and a legal system buried under endless procedure. Bleak House, for example, criticized the British Chancery Court, portraying justice delayed as justice denied. Dickens believed that empathy was a moral duty, and his writing demanded it from readers. His success turned him into a celebrity unlike anything literature had seen before. Dickens went on extensive reading tours, performing his works aloud to packed halls in Britain and the United States. He didn't just read, He acted. He embodied his characters, shifting voices and expressions, captivating audiences for hours. These performances took a toll on his health, but they strengthened his connection with the public. Dickens wasn't a distant intellectual. He was accessible, emotional, and deeply engaged with his audience. Despite his public image as a moral guide, Dickens' private life was complicated. He married Catherine Hogarth in 1836, and together they had 10 children. Over time, the marriage deteriorated. Dickens grew emotionally distant and eventually separated from Catherine, a scandalous move in Victorian society. He later became closely involved with a much younger actress, Ellen Ternan, a relationship he worked hard to keep secret. These contradictions between public virtue and private struggle add complexity to his legacy. Dickens was also a man of relentless energy. He edited magazines, wrote essays, campaigned for social reform, and maintained an exhausting schedule. He believed deeply in self-improvement and discipline, yet he was also prone to restlessness and obsession. Walking miles through London at night, he observed the city as both participant and witness. London was not just his setting, it was his character. One of Dickens's most enduring contributions to culture came in 1843 with A Christmas Carol. At the time, Christmas was not the warm, family-centered holiday we recognize today. Dickens's story helped reshape the modern celebration of Christmas, emphasizing generosity, compassion, and redemption. Ebenezer Scrooge's transformation became a cultural blueprint for moral awakening. Few works of fiction have had such a direct impact on social traditions. As he aged, Dickens's health began to decline. Years of overwork, stress, and relentless touring took their toll. Yet he continued writing until the end. His final novel, The Mystery of Edwin Drood, was left unfinished when he suffered a stroke and died on June 9, 1870, at the age of 58. The nation mourned. Dickens was buried in Westminster Abbey's Poets' Corner, a rare honor for someone who began life in a blacking factory. Charles Dickens's legacy is vast. He shaped the modern novel, popularized serialized storytelling, and demonstrated that literature could be both commercially successful and morally serious. His works remain widely read, adapted, and quoted, not because they belong to the past, but because they speak to problems that persist: inequality, bureaucracy, greed, and the longing for dignity. Above all, Dickens believed in the power of empathy. He believed stories could change how people see one another. That belief came from a boy who once felt invisible, working long hours in silence. By giving voice to the forgotten, Charles Dickens ensured that they would never be ignored again. And that is why more than a century later, we are still listening.